What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So I can't believe we really have to talk about this, but in light of recent comments, it's obvious that the Aaron Rodgers guest appearances on the Pat McAfee show are going to start to become more and more detrimental for the New York Jets. Now, while his recent comments didn't specifically have any impact with the New York Jets, I can see something of this caliber coming up again, just the way the show functions, right? It's a little bit more outlandish, right, in terms of some of the commentary and some of the content that they do cover, or that naturally comes up as part of that kind of like semi-professional, unprofessional kind of environment, right? So anyways, to get to the point. So what recently happened was Aaron Rodgers was, doing his weekly appearance, and there were some comments made. Now, Pat McAfee tried to smooth this over, but essentially, whether this was in an accusatory manner or kind of a joking, kind of semblance, as Pat McAfee kind of tried to infer, he essentially said that talk show host Jimmy Kimmel would end up appearing on this Jeffrey Epstein list. Now, I don't know the full history between these guys. I don't even fully know the Jeffrey Epstein story. I know the basics of what I need to know, which is that he was a convicted sex trafficker. Apparently, there was this whole Epstein Island stint, some kind of list where, the elite of the elites all apparently went to this island, and, things were going down. It was like a Taken movie, from my understanding. Obviously not something you want to be compared to, right? I wouldn't even have to know who Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Kimmel was, right? If I'm just a regular dude walking down the street, or I'm around my boys and I hear these guys talking and something like that comes up, right? Before this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, for 90s babies, you would say the Michael Jackson-like comments are probably the closest thing to this, right? Pedophiliac type comments and stuff. It's the closest thing you get to this caliber of kind of, accusation. It's just certain things that you don't really joke about whatsoever. And that's why this is extremely disappointing, no matter if he actually is accusing him or whether it's a joking manner, because that's not the platform, it's not the place, it's not the time. And really, for a show that really does, focus the majority of his content around sports-related themes, etc., there shouldn't have been a moment for this to actually occur. And so, it's not to make this moment bigger than it absolutely needs to be, which I do think it needs to be widely talked about, which, we are seeing. But this is going to impact things moving forward. Right now, it's interesting because I've heard people talk about some of these NFL rules in light of, what we've seen with gambling issues, and players having, behavioral discipline, and some of the consequences that come from that. And I want to say maybe it was on FS1 or something like that. I don't know. But one of the major sports guys were talking about it, and he did have an interesting kind of take about one of the more recent disciplines. I can't remember who the player or anything was, but the gist of it is essentially that it would have been easier for said player to have admitted whatever the wrongdoing was, rather than kind of letting things play out. Because it goes from being a behavioral issue to this was my action, this is the NFL's policy and rules on said action, and it was some kind of suspension, right? But nonetheless, anyways, I think the same thing matters here, right? When you talk about behavioral issues when it gets to the NFL, that could be a loose and wide array of things. Something like this can definitely come up, and the reason I say that is because we've actually had a pretty swift and quick response from Jimmy Kimmel in response to this, right? And as mentioned, it's a very serious accusation or joke, no matter what is going on with it. And to boil it down, he basically threatened a lawsuit, but He said, "Dear a-hole, for the record, I've not met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, nor will you find my name on any list other than the clearly phony nonsense that soft-brain wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. Your reckless words put my family in danger. Keep it up and we will debate the facts further in court." Now, as mentioned, apparently they have a pretty bad history dating back to some kind of vaccination comments. And so it is what it is, right? There's plenty of people taking stabs at, Aaron Rodgers and, vice versa. But again, very, very serious in nature. Now, if a lawsuit, for example, was to come up, I would assume it would probably be under something like defamation, right? Not only are you tarnishing the reputation of said person with something that won't be factual truth unless he does happen to appear on some kind of official document, in regards to Jimmy Kimmel. Would that fall into, detrimental, I don't know the word for word slogan, right? But basically conduct that's detrimental to the NFL and said organizations that you play for, et cetera, et cetera. I would say it probably could, right? And so now you're talking about 2024. Maybe there's a reality where Aaron Rodgers has to go through a suspension now due to some ridiculous comments made on the show. And so, I don't think this is a reach of a conversation for us to be having about this and why this could be a problem, right? And it's not just this one incident. We haven't had anything major. The few people I've heard chatted and wanted to kind of debate about this, wanted to give Aaron Rodgers his credit for essentially going a full season without any kind of major, crazy, negative headline news. And so you have this one incident. Cool. If you want to exclude that, that's your business. But we have had the other various conversations, which why I think we need to kind of get ahead of this and get him off this show, where he's had comments that could be seen as critical, going against teammates, in regards to information leaking out, going against the coaching staff, in regards to decisions that are made. Recently, think about the decision to activate him off IR that he had to kind of clarify. Think about some of the personnel commentations that he's made. Think about some of the decisions, right? Obviously we knew he was going to be a polarizing figure in New York. You can see all of the highlight tapes alone of him just being on the sideline and, various clips of him shaking his head, looking very disappointed, sometimes confused or perplexed with, some of the play calls they're being made, how the play on the actual field looks. And so it's easy to see a lot of people take a storyline and run with it. And this was the perfect opportunity. So, I seen a comparison out there to Ben Roethlisberger. Apparently, once upon a time, for about the first 6 years of his career, he was also doing talk show appearances, right? And there was a lot of examples, right? Questioning the coaching staff, questioning teammates, inappropriate comments, and all of this other sort of things being made. And ultimately, it's definitely a distraction for the team, right? You're here with the intent and purpose to, service this team and kind of help be that veteran guidance that would lead us to a Super Bowl, right? That's the ultimate reason that we brought you in. And then, of course, secondary would be you being a great mentor to people and showing leadership attributes and how you go about your business as a future Hall of Famer and all of those kind of things. But these are the very same things that we can't have, right? You have the minor things like the coaching comments and all that kind of stuff, but then you have these major ones that could take away as well. And then again, potentially impact the future. If you want to talk about the NFL seriously investigating and take a look at this and saying this isn't a great look for, the NFL. And who knows who steps in? Maybe it's the NFL, maybe it's ESPN. And I know Disney owns a bunch of stuff, so I heard this be referred to as like a Disney on Disney crime at some point. Maybe it's the Jets, right? Maybe Woody Johnson and the entire, front office coaching staff hierarchy band together, finally show some balls and tell Aaron Rodgers, yeah, not this time, right? I know there was the rumors, and I'm not sure if it ever got confirmed, that he's getting like $1 million per appearance for whatever that's worth. So, maybe the discussion is as quick and clean as, hey, in light of recent things and, some of the additional attention that being on the show has brought, we like to see that be stopped. And of course, we doubt you'll be injured again next year. To the extent you were, all of the attention should be focused on the field and then, conditioning, rehab, et cetera, et cetera. Who knows if he just rolls with that? Who knows if it becomes a point of contention between the two sides, right? And I think that would be the biggest struggle. Right now, the Jets have no choice but to eat out of, Aaron Rodgers' hands, right? All of the power is definitely shifted to his side. So in any moment, he can choose to retire. And you kind of don't want to poke the bear in this situation. So it's really a lose-lose. But ultimately, it's a big boy business. We've seen a lot of people cut down players that were in the primes and upsides and, have been with their franchise for 15, 16, 17 years. And, there was no love at the ending stages in a lot of these relationships. So we don't really owe Aaron Rodgers any loyalty, right? The expectation was that he was going to come in and do what he was supposed to do, and we haven't seen that yet, right? So it was great to hear the 2-year recommitment. But then you're going to have this downside, right? We already kind of stop at the drop of a dime for any comments that we get from Aaron Rodgers, and we dissect and we go on and on in these conversations, debates about kind of what certain things mean, what the intentions are, what's the long-term and short-term outlook, and all this kind of stuff. So these are the additional things we don't need, right? And then ultimately, in my opinion, I haven't tuned into a lot of it, but for the most part, it's not like there's been an overarching positive outcome from being on this Pat McAfee show from the Jets' perspective. Again, you've had some comments and questions that have come out that have either gone against what Robert Saleh has mentioned or that, have needed some clarification after some confusion between, leadership versus Aaron Rodgers. And outside of that, I can say maybe I learned a little bit more about ACLs and this new inventive procedure. But outside of that and, some of the things that generally made me feel like Aaron Rodgers is a much better guy than what I kind of expected, just hearing from, Packers fans, hasn't been an overwhelmingly positive experience or anything that I say, okay, well, no, I can see the benefit to him staying on there. So, I don't know. Ultimately, rambling now. Let me know what you guys think. How big of an issue is this for you? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.